Okay, so I was on Facebook and I came across this post that was disturbing to me. And I'm gonna read the post and then I'm gonna say what I want to say about it. So, here we go. A grown man looms behind my 3-year-old daughter. Occasionally, he will poke or tickle her, and she responds by shrinking. Smaller and smaller with each unwanted advance, I imagine her trying to become slight enough to slip out of her booster seat and slide under the table. When my mother views this scene, she sees playful taunting, a grandfather engaging with his granddaughter. May, my tone cuts through the din of the familiar family gathering together. She does not look at me. May, I started again. You can tell him no, May. If this isn't okay, you can say something like, Papa, please back up. I would like some space for my body. As I say the words, my stepfather, the bulldog, leans in a little closer, hovering just above her head. His tenebrous grin taunts me as my daughter accordions her 30-pound frame, hoping to escape his tickles and hot breath. I repeat myself with a little more force. She finally peeks up at me. Mama, can you say it? Surprise, a 3-year-old girl doesn't feel comfortable defending herself against a grown man. A man that has stated he loves and cares for her over and over again, and yet stands here showing zero concern for her wishes about her own body. I ready myself for battle. Papa, please back up. May would like some space for her body. My voice is firm but cheerful. He does not move. Papa, I should not have to ask you twice. Please back up. May is uncomfortable. Oh, relax, he says, ruffling her wispy blonde hair. The patriarchy stands patronizing me in my own damn kitchen. We're just playing. His southern drawl does not charm me. No, you were playing. She was not. She made it clear she would like some space. Now please back up. I can play how I want with her, he says, straightening his posture. My chest tightens. The sun-bleached hairs on my arms stand at attention as this man, who has been my father figure for more than 3 decades, enters the battle ring. No, you cannot play however you want with her. It's not okay to have fun with someone who does not want to play. He opens his mouth to respond, but my rage is palpable through my measured response. I wondered if my daughter can feel it. I hope she can. He retreats to the living room and my daughter stares up at me. Her eyes, a starburst of blue and hazel, shine with admiration for her mama. The dragon has been slayed, for now. My own mother is silent. She refuses to make eye contact with me. This is the same woman who shut me down when I told her about a sexual assault I had encountered, or I had recently come to acknowledge. There we go. Sorry. This is the same woman who was abducted by a car full of strangers as she walked home one night. She fought and screamed until they kicked her out. Speeding away, they ran over her ankle and left her with a lifetime of physical and emotional pain. This is the same woman who said nothing, who could say nothing, as her boss and his friends sexually harassed her for years. This is the same woman who married one of those friends. When my mother views this scene, she sees her daughter overreacting. She sees me making a big deal out of nothing. Her concerns lie more in maintaining the status quo and cradling my stepdad's toxic ego than in protecting the shrinking 3-year-old in front of me. When I view this scene, I am both bolstered and dismayed. My own strength and refusal to keep quiet is the result of hundreds, probably thousands of years of women being mistreated and their protests ignored. It is the result of watching my own mother suffer quietly at the hands of too many men. It is the result of my own mistreatment and my solemn vow to be part of ending this cycle. It would be so easy to see a little girl being taught that her wishes don't matter, that her body is not her own, that even people she loves will mistreat and ignore her. And all of that is okay in the name of other people, men, having fun. But what I see instead is a little girl watching her mama. I see a little girl learning that her voice matters, that her wishes matter. I see a little girl learning that she is allowed and expected to say no. I see her learning that this is not okay. I hope my mom is learning something too. So I watched this and I read that and I felt all kinds of ways because I have small daughters, little girls. And the fact that this child was 3 years old, and the fact that I dealt with everything that happened with my kid when she was 3, it just, we have to make sure that our small children, girl or boy, know that if something is making them uncomfortable or they don't feel safe, they feel something feels off, something feels wrong, it's okay for them to speak up and say that for themselves. Like, too often family puts the guilt on little people of, oh, well, that's just your auntie, that's just your uncle, that's family, don't be like that. But small children, they're still more in tune with spirit than we are as adults. We done been through so much that everything that we got going on, we're not in touch as we should be. And that's why, you always hear be as a little child. So when we do this to little kids, this is the first step in silencing their voice. And this is the first step in them not being able to say no, to not being able to speak up for themselves. And we don't realize it. This is unbeknownst, because I didn't think about it until a week ago. So
I think they just don't like you.
Wow.
And that's because it was a credit. You can use it. It's like $16. You can use it.
Interesting. Okay. Anyways, we as parents are actually the first people that teach our children how not to stand up for themselves, how not to defend themselves, how not to speak up for themselves. And it's hard for children to do that anyway, especially when the person that they need to stand up to is an adult. Because we have all this respect your elders. Well, how about some elders shouldn't be respected? Did that cross anybody's mind? Has anybody ever thought about that? Some elders don't deserve respect. And how about your child will pick up on that before you do? Shocker. You need to pay attention to how your child responds when they're around, reacts when they're around certain people. Because your child is your responsibility. So when I reposted this, and for me, no means no. We hear that all the time, but it is not something that is truly put into action as it should be. There's plenty of people that say no, and there's more ways to say no than no. If they say stop, if they say I don't want to, if they say I don't feel comfortable, if they say, there are more. There are so many more. Come on, mind. Work with me. They're silent no's. If she physically pushes, or he or she, if they physically push you away, if they back away, if they shrink in, if they cower, all of that is no. And no means no. You can't just look for or wait for audible no's, because there are various inaudible no's when you are making advances on someone who doesn't want them. Like, you've seen the movies where a guy goes in to kiss a girl, or they go to kiss here and she does this. That's no. That's a no. You go to kiss her and they do that. That's a no. You do this and you touch and they move. That's a no. Like, you really have to pay attention. Or make sure that you get that consent. Make sure you get an audible yes. Make sure that when you're going in for it, they leaning into you. If they want it, you're gonna know. And if they don't, you are going to know. People who take, they know they're taking it. They know it's an unwanted advance. They don't like to admit it, and then they start making excuses and all this other crazy shit. So, no means no. And yes, that goes for your tiny human. You as a parent are never supposed to let your child feel like they are unimportant or they don't matter. Excuse me. Or how they feel, if they're uncomfortable, that it doesn't matter. So, it's your job and your responsibility as their parent to make sure that they are safe and secure at all times. And yes, I know shit happens. We fall astray. That's life. But I'm not talking about just regular old shit. I'm talking about making sure your child feels comfortable and safe around whoever you have in their space. Because once you have a child, it's no longer about just how you feel. Cool, you're comfortable around them. If your child is not, you need to do something about that. If that means you can't hang out with that person, do that. If that means you can only hang out with that person when your child is busy doing something else, do that. But don't force your child to be around people that make them feel some type of way. Because what a lot of us fail to realize is that they aren't anything but miniature versions of us. They feel the same. They hurt the same. Their little feelings be crushed just the same. Their heart breaks just the same. And them being younger and having less experience, they don't have as many words to express how they feel like we do. Like, we really got to remember that kids, they need guidance and they need to learn things, but they are also you. And a combination of the other person in tiny form, they're you. And so, for me, when you force a kid to hug people or shake people's hands or, talk to people, you are the first person that teaches your child that saying no doesn't matter. How they feel doesn't matter. Suck it up and do it anyway because it's what's expected. That's wrong. Yeah, I know. A whole lot of people aren't going to agree with me, but you got a whole lot of children out here suffering because their parents aren't really parenting. And I'm not talking about buying them stuff and making sure they eat. You're supposed to do that. The law says you have to do that. What the law doesn't say you have to do is nourish your child's mind, protect your child's feelings, protect your child's heart. Ain't none of all that type shit in the law. They don't give a fuck if you do any of that. They don't give a fuck if you nourish your child's soul. If you make sure that they grow up happy and stable and able to talk to you. Able to come to you with anything. Because they know when they come, okay, my parent might be a little bothered, but they're going to be there for me. They're going to help me through this. They're not going to judge. They're going to be there with loving arms. They're going to have unconditional love for me. A lot of y'all don't have unconditional love for your kids. Because there's certain shit that they can do, and you're going to cut them the fuck off. I don't give a damn what mine do. If that means they're a murderer, okay. They're going to have to learn. They're going to have to go through their own experience, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to visit. I'm not going to write. I'm not going to put money on their books. That's still my kid. That's still part of me. It came from me. So how am I going to disown it? How am I going to cast it out? That's a tiny me. Would you do it to you? What if you fucked up and did some shit and ended up in a real bad way? How would you want to be treated? You really got to think about shit like that with your kids. I don't understand how people beat the fuck out of their kids. I can't do it. I don't do it. And you kiss my ass. You can ask my kids. They'll tell you. No, she yells. Sometimes she cuss at us. And I do. Y'all mad at Kirk Franklin, so you'll be mad at me because I cuss at my kids. And I don't beat on them. How many of you can say you don't beat on your children? I can. But, anywho, I wanted to address that because I feel like it's an issue that gets swept under the rug a lot. Because you got the whole, what happens in this house stays in this house. And you got the whole, oh, that's family. Oh, they're just playing. Oh, you're tripping. Oh, quit overreacting. You have all those variables of the situation. But they all add up to teaching your child that their voice doesn't matter. Them being uncomfortable and saying they're uncomfortable doesn't matter. So while the parent in that story was upset with her mother's voice was taken away from her. And so all she knew to do was to take the voice away from her child. And then her child decided to break the cycle. And is advocating for her child as a small person. Like, nah, check this out. I gave birth to that kid. And I'm looking at that kid. And my kid is they're not feeling it right now. So I'm going to need you to give them 50 feet. Back up. You see, I'm the type, the first time he didn't listen, he would have had to get the fuck out of my house. I wouldn't have repeated myself. I'm not going to repeat myself in my home. In the place where my kid is supposed to feel safe. I'm not going to repeat myself about somewhere you're making them feel. You're making my child feel uncomfortable in our house. I don't give a fuck who you are. You can kick rocks. Because, yeah, my kids are always right. They're innocent until proven guilty. That's how we roll around here. And baby, you're going to have to prove them guilty because mama believe them. So if they're lying, you're going to have to come with the evidence and your receipts. You're going to have to come with that for me. You just go on and be clear about me and the 3 children that slid out of this vagina. Whatever they tell me, I'm going to believe them first. Always and forever. Yeah. Always believe them first. So, I hope that somebody gets where I'm coming from with this, and somebody tells somebody so that we can start advocating for these tiny humans who can't really advocate for themselves? Because if we aren't making sure that the next generation, if we aren't making sure that our kids are good for their kids, the fuck are we doing? We're supposed to be learning and evolving, right? We're supposed to be doing better than our parents. My parents will tell you that their kids as parents are doing better than them. We implemented things. They learned from us. And that's okay. I learn from my kids all the time. Especially Jazz. Her little 7 going on 30 ass. I learn from her all the time. Because she sees things from a different point of view because she's 7. And her imagination is still out there. And I let it be. Dream it up, baby. Stop dimming y'all kids' light. Stop telling them to stop imagining stuff. When they say they got an imaginary friend, hold up. Because they might be talking to a spirit. Somebody might be visiting them. And they don't know any other way to describe what's going on with them. So for the spiritual people out there, for those of you who know about that and who, you know, think about that first when your kid says they have an imaginary friend. Or when they say something that you know you didn't tell them and they didn't hear anywhere. Like, she said things, and who told you that? My conscience. Don't knock that out of them. Because whatever is speaking to her, whatever is in here for her, is giving her knowledge. So, my daughter's conscience talks to her all the time. And I don't say nothing about it. Oh, okay, cool. Because thus far, she ain't said anything like, she does something wrong. She ain't never said, my conscience told me to do it. Now, when we start getting that type shit, then I will say that her imagination has finally, you know, been altered by everything we got going on, and now we're in another space. But for now, what her conscience tells her be accurate. So don't knock your kids for that shit either. Pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention to your kids. Pay attention to your kids. Pay attention to your kids. I say that being somebody who worked up until, what was that? My last night was February 26th. So 27, 28, 29, the 1st. I worked up until 4 days before I had my last baby. I have not been back since. I've been home with my child, paying attention to my child. Watching her grow, watching her learn. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. I truly wish that more moms wanted to and had the ability to have their baby and be able to be at home with their baby. Be able to breastfeed their baby. On demand. You make milk. That's a superpower. Stop letting these people tell you to do formula. You make milk. Your body nourishes your kid. Like, they don't need nothing but you. And you don't let these people tell you to put cow titty and formula titty in your baby mouth. I nursed all 3 of mine. And my oldest is 16. So I'm not telling nobody to do nothing I haven't done. I'm just throwing a little something out there because I just feel like what we see and what we hear most times, that ain't it. So, yeah. Let's make sure we're not silencing our children's voices. Let's make sure we're not teaching our kids at as early as 1, 2, 3, and 4 that them being uncomfortable doesn't matter. Suck it up, because that's family. Let's cut that shit. Let's cut that shit. Let's cut that shit. Pay attention to your babies. That's all I got. Please pay attention to your kids. Please talk to your kids. Ooh, It is never too early to teach your child about their genitalia and how nobody should be there. If your child can talk, please talk to them about that. It's never too early. I didn't have that conversation. She was 3, and that conversation needed to be had because she spoke well. Jazz spoke well. She started saying words at like 2 months old. If you've been around her, if you've been in my life for a long time, you know she talked early and she talked well. And that it never crossed my mind. It took me having to go through this shitty ass experience for that to cross my mind. So if I could tell another parent, while your baby is young, your baby is now forming words, to tell people to stay the fuck away from their private areas, please talk to your small children, 1, 2, and 3. Please talk to your small children.